by March 2022, the then Minister of Finance and National Planning, Madam Zainab Ahmed, announced publicly, show you can Google, you will find it, that the federal government had secretly ended subsidy, electricity subsidy. But
greetings to you all, my people, and welcome to another episode of Damole News. All right, my people, we all are aware that the federal government and the power minister have increased electricity tariff in the country as they plan to remove the subsidy in power sector totally. So while speaking on Channels Television yesterday, FEMI FALANA, the human rights activist and lawyer, have exposed the federal government and the power minister. According to him, he said that there is no subsidy in power sector as the then Minister of Finance announced that the federal government and the then power minister has secretly removed subsidy in power sector in Nigeria. And he also spoke about some international bodies who are responsible for the hike in price in electricity in Nigeria, and how the power ministers and the federal government have mismanaged the power sector in Nigeria. Alright, I'll be playing you guys the video, and I urge you guys to watch this video to the end, as they say, information is power. But before then, please help us to like and share this video so that YouTube and Facebook can recommend it to more people. Thank you.
I just listened to the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, and I think I also listened to him on Friday. With profound respect, I have studied the provisions of the Electricity Act of 2023. I cannot identify the role of the Minister of Power with respect to the increase in electricity tariff. That is the exclusive responsibility of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. And going by the law, the increase cannot be justified under the Electricity Act. Specifically, Section 116 of the Act provides that a licensee shall be allowed, a licensee that operates efficiently shall be allowed to recover full cost of his business activities. There's nobody who can say today that the discos are operating efficiently in Nigeria. To that extent, the provision of the law has not been met. Secondly, in order to increase electricity tariff in the country, the proposal from the licensees, the discos, shall be published in the Federal Government Gazette and newspapers that have wide coverage in the country for the purpose of alerting consumers and other stakeholders in case they want to raise objections. And they have 30 days to do that. Those objections will be considered at a public hearing by the Commission. It is when there is an agreement substantially that the proposal will be allowed to increase electricity tariff. If it is not accepted, it is not going to be allowed. So the point I'm making, therefore, is that the federal government or the Minister of Labor and the Commission did not operate under the law. Secondly, by November last year, the Minister of Power, Mr. Adelabu, did say this electricity tariff, they're not talking of subsidy, electricity tariff, because Nigerians were undergoing some hardship. And today, the hardship has become harrowing for the majority of our people, whether you call them people in Band A or Band C or whatever. Nigerians are undergoing excruciating economic difficulties. Now, coming to the reasons adduced by the minister, with profound respect. In 2021, the federal government announced that by 2022, subsidy in the electricity sector will be ended. And by March 2022, the then Minister of Finance and National Planning, Madam Zainab Ahmed, announced publicly, showing you can Google, you will find it, that the federal government had secretly ended subsidy, electricity subsidy, but were unable to do so in respect of fuel subsidy because of the forthcoming elections. So if the federal government announced, the most competent person, the Minister of Finance at the material time, in 2022, that we had ended electricity subsidy, where, for goodness sake, as the Minister of Power got the figure of 3 trillion in 2024, the same minister did say last year, in January this year, I think January 15 to be specific, when the government was under pressure from the IMF, we are spending 700 billion. We spent 700 billion last year on electricity subsidy. We cannot afford same. But by last Friday, the figure had metamorphosed to 3 trillion on the government. And at that time, the IMF claimed that the government was spending 2.3 trillion on electricity and fuel subsidy. Now, when you look at these figures, vis-a-vis the commitment or the announcement of the government in 2022 that electricity subsidy has ended, the federal government will have to set up a public inquiry to address these conflicting figures from the IMF, the Minister of Power, and the Commission, so that we know what we are talking about. But as far as the federal government of Nigeria is concerned, electricity subsidy ended in 2022. What they are now doing, what the government is doing now, is to make Nigerians pay for the inefficiency, for the profligacy, and the incompetence of those who are managing the electricity sector in Nigeria. And so we have a history. We are coming from, they're talking of a journey. Where did we get to this mess? By 2012, the electricity sector, I think in 2007, the late President Yaradua, when there was this controversy that $16 billion had been wasted on generating darkness by the previous regime, the Olusegun Obasanjo administration, President Yaradua was under pressure, tremendous pressure, to privatize the industry. And he said, no, we are going to see what Nigerians can do to manage. And they were called, not NEPA then. I think it had become PHCN. And by 2012, that body had become self-sufficient, that was no longer being subsidized, it was no longer getting any subvention from the government. But again, as soon as President Yaradua passed on, this renewed prayer came from local capitalists and the IMF and World Bank. Thou shalt privatize. Of course, in 2013, some form of privatization was alleged to have taken place. We had 18 electricity companies. As a minister in that regime then, the then Minister of National Planning, Dr. Shamsuddin Usman, later admitted, we sold the electricity companies to our friends. Those friends did not bring any money to the table. They didn't have the fund. They didn't have the competence or the managerial capacity to man or to run those discos efficiently. That is what we are paying for today. So the government must, frankly speaking, apologize to Nigerians that we have mismanaged the electricity sector. And then we go back to the drawing table and begin to find out how we are going to run our country in the interest of our people and not in the interest of some dubious agencies abroad. And I'm talking of the IMF and World Bank. And I have challenged those two bodies.
So my people, that is it for you all. I saw this news and I decided to share it with you guys. But please help us by liking and sharing this video so that YouTube and Facebook can recommend it to more people. Thank you so much for your time and God bless you. Amen.